Welcome everybody to QuickBooks Quarterly Updates, Q4 2025. This will be approximately a 2-hour webinar. Maybe after we go live, there'll be some editing and it might be a little bit shorter. And this is part of the advanced webinar series that I've been doing for years and years. God knows how many years I've been doing this for. Never stop, never quit. Always do them in service of the QuickBooks Pro community. So we spent about 50 minutes talking about like general news, Intuit news, upcoming webinars and programs, the newest things we have going on at the RightTool world. And then we'll spend maybe about 30 minutes going into QuickBooks Online Accountant, 20 minutes talking about new features that are across all QBO editions, like mostly little things here and there that accumulate to a lot. Then we're going to go into QuickBooks Online Reports specifically. There's a lot of new things when it comes to reports, some that are available to you, some that will be available soon, all really worth looking at. Then we'll talk about things that are only available in Plus in advance, then things that are always available in advance. And depending on how much time we have at the end, maybe possibly we'll do something on Intuit Enterprise Suite, but for the most part, probably we'll just mention what's new and give you some links in where you can go research the new features of Intuit Enterprise Suite, which is another whole world inside the QuickBooks verse. The last recording that we did was Q3 of 2025 for August. The link to the YouTube channel is in the description. We covered the whole new QBO UI. We covered new features in bank feeds. We covered PDF bank statement upload. We covered Customer Hub. We covered some of the AI features. So that should be available in last quarter's webinar. Let's get into Intuit news. First, pretty big news is Intuit signs $100 million a year deal with OpenAI to bring apps to ChatGPT. Now, they're not very specific in terms of exactly what that looks like. What's interesting about this is Intuit announced a couple of years ago that they will be developing their own AI, their own private, internal, financial specific AI. So if Intuit was developing their own AI, why would they need to go into this? So I'm not skeptical about it. I'm just thinking maybe it's really hard to build your own AI. OpenAI, ChatGPT, super, super powerful. So Intuit looks like, at least from their expenditure, it looks like that they are going to, for sure, going to go all in with AI. So like, I don't think the amount of AI tools are going down. I think they're going to be completely the opposite. I think Intuit is going to add and package more and more AI as time goes. And now with ChatGPT, they probably have a lot more power, a lot more tools at their disposal to do more AI. Where this is most likely to show up is in their big, wide consumer product TurboTax. So I'm thinking that this tax season in TurboTax, there will be a lot of AI involvement, and it's probably going to be through this partnership with OpenAI. Again, I don't know exactly what the partnership entails and what it includes and what doesn't include, but you will be the judge. Today is November 20th. There is an earnings call, and I'm pretty sure they will probably talk about that OpenAI deal. So if you're interested if you're a shareholder, I'm a shareholder of Intuit. As a matter of fact, a lot of my life savings are put into Intuit stock. I believe in the product that I use every day even though I have tons of feedback and tons of gripes about QuickBooks and Intuit and the whole thing, I'm very public about them. I do own their stock. So I'm very interested this afternoon to see what they got to say about that. And I missed Intuit Connect this year. And if you missed Intuit Connect, or maybe if you went, check out Intuit Connect On. This is their summary of everything that was announced at their big conference in Las Vegas. It's a free event on December 4th at 9 a.m. Pacific time. It's free. Just click on the link in the slides, register, so you can learn about all the new cool things that QuickBooks is working on and what they are telling us their future is and the roadmap. I suspect that a lot of the things that they're going to cover, I will cover in this webinar, but I'm pretty sure there's a couple more things that I haven't covered. A couple of free webinars I'm teaching. I'm just going to give you a quick a rundown of that. On tomorrow, Friday, November 21st at 1 p.m., I'm doing a recap with my brother Carlos about our Reframe 2025 event. So this is the time of year where this takes a lot of my attention, my time, my love, my energy, my intellectual capacity. It's the Reframe event, which is a really, really big deal. Really big deal for people that attended, really big deal for me, real big deal for the industry, in my opinion. And if you are wondering if you weren't there, or if you were there and you want to check out the recap of what we think went well and all that stuff, that's going to be on that webinar. The next webinar I recommend that you check out is the RightTool certification program. We already did part 1 and part 2 for those that want to get certified in RightTool. So there's a certified user program that's free, and then there's a certified expert program for those that have the Pro Edition and want to learn how to use all the Pro tools. All the training is available for free via live webinar. December 1st will be the third part. But if you go into RightTool's YouTube channel, you can see both parts 1 and part 2 have already been published. So if you want to attend live and ask questions, you can do that. If not, you can always watch it, the recording. And then on December 3rd, we're doing a RightTool for QBO bi-monthly update. So every 2 months, we talk about all the new features. So all the stuff we'll talk about on December 3rd would be above and beyond what's covered in the certification program. Now, there's one paid course that I'm extremely excited about. This one's called the Reframe Your Pricing course. Essentially, as a practitioner, myself, as a studious of the industry and multiple thought leaders and different ways to think about pricing my professional accounting services, whether it's training services, tax returns, bookkeeping, I have learned a lot, I have documented a lot, and I experimented a lot. So this year, I'm proud to announce that after 3 years of doing Reframe and learning from the best, I have compiled, and I'm still compiling and building and writing and recording what I feel to be the best course, the best thought leadership for accounting professionals I have ever created. We're going to release the course on December 11th. It will be a self-paced course. And we will do quarterly Q&A for people that purchase the course with me, so we can help you through untangling all your pricing strategies, specifically as you start applying some of the techniques, processes, formulas, best practices, brainstorming with ChatGPT, everything, a capstone of everything I ever learned about pricing my services and earning more money as an accounting professional. I will teach it in this self-paced course, and then we'll start our quarterly Q&A with me on December 18th. The price will be $1,500, the same price that costs most people to come to the Reframe conference, where we learned a lot of these techniques. We're going to go on pre-sale on December 1st. So on December 1st, we have a waiting list. People are going to get an email, and they're going to say, here's how you purchase the course. If you purchase it prior to being released, there will be a 50% discount. Like all things I ever sell and do for the public, there will be a money-back guarantee on the course if you're not satisfied. So if you're interested, just either add yourself to the polling or click on the link in the slides to add your name and email. And on December 1st, we will send you an email, all the details about the course, the agenda, what's included, the exercises, all that stuff will be very clearly outlined in there. And you will have the coupon to purchase it at a 50% discount. So if you're an accounting professional, bookkeeper, tax preparer, and you believe spending $1,500 to make $3,000, $5,000, $10,000, $50,000 more, by increasing your prices, this is a good investment for you. And for those that take the risk, so to speak, and pre-buy before the course even comes out, you will get that reward. You will get that 50% discount. So all you have to do is add yourself to that MailChimp list by adding your name and email through that link. Or if you are attending the webinar live, you can just answer the polling question. That would be good enough. All right. Now, I want to talk about, I'm going to talk about in this webinar about the new Intuit Accountant Suite. I'm going to spend some time on that. I do want to point out that I did a video where I slowed down and I did some editing, and all the mistakes that were done were cut out that you can watch on YouTube. I released that video a couple of weeks ago. So if the webinar itself seems a little bit fast because I have to cover a lot more things and just the books close, check out the video where I actually do kind of slow down and talk about the books close, which is a really important piece of the strategy for Intuit to win over accountants. All right, let me talk about RightTool. So for those that are RightTool users, you're going to be delighted to hear about 3 of the new features we have added this quarter. We've added more, but these are the ones that I'm going to cover. So I'm going to cover a new feature called Re-Reconcile, a new feature called Batch Change Project Status, and auto-remove bank feed AI suggestions. Now, the first 2 are only available in Pro, and auto-remove AI suggestions is actually available in the free edition as well. There's also a new feature that we actually previewed, actually showed you like the very rough development stages of it on the last webinar, last quarter, which is called Reconcile Helper. So I won't cover it again, but it's absolutely amazing. People are loving it, saving people tons of time. And there's another feature that was recently released that for the sake of time, I won't cover it, which is the ability to merge multiple vendors in batch. And that's only available in the Pro edition. So only the auto-remove bank feeds AI suggestions, that's the only one that's available in Pro. So I'm going to cover those really quick. So let's go into QuickBooks Online. Okay, I'm going to go into one of my accounts. And then we're going to start with the feature called Re-Reconcile. And essentially, and just to kind of set up the premise here, essentially what happens is many times we need to re-reconcile the bank account, which means I don't need to input the date that I'm going to reconcile, and I don't need to input the amount. Essentially, I want the same date and the same amount from the last reconciliation to automatically populate. So let me pick an account here that may have been reconciled. This is a good example. So this account was last reconciled 1/26/2021, and the remaining balance is $30,408. So for XYZ reason, I need to re-reconcile this, okay? We can get into the details in some other webinar, some other setting about when this is useful or not. But it's just super annoying to have to retype, copy and paste the dollar amount, retype it here, and retype the date. So we simply have a button here called Re-Reconcile. You click on Use Last Statement Date, click on Re-Reconcile, and it automatically fills in the last dollar amount and the last date. Now, if the reconciliation is broken, which can happen, so let's take a look at this account, the 3715 account, and let's break it. So I'm literally going to break the reconciliation. Okay, this happens quite a bit. Usually our clients do this a little bit. They'll break a reconciliation. So I'm going to delete a transaction that's already been reconciled. So when I go back and reconcile this account, I'm going to have an error. So let's find this one. And the error is I'm off by $239.88. So this system is smart enough to know that if I have a reconciliation discrepancy, the re-reconcile button is actually going to grab this amount plus this amount to get you back to the correct reconciliation and pick up the date and put it in there. So if I click on re-reconcile, boom, it does the math for you. It figures out what the difference is, and it puts you into that position where you can re-reconcile and fix the account, where you're going to have to then obviously mark the transaction that was missing. You have to go back and create a transaction. Like, it doesn't like undo the breakage, but it actually saves you a couple of clicks, and it saves you having to do the math of going, wait, what was the last reconcile amount? Having to look at the report and that stuff. So the re-reconcile button has multiple value from that perspective. Also, if you're working with an account let's just grab an account here. Let's say you have a clearing account that's always supposed to be at 0. So let me just find an account that's never been reconciled. Let's see, maybe we have something here, maybe a cash account, right? So let's say we have an account that's always supposed to be 0. Again, it's super annoying having to type a 0 here and the date. Just click on re-reconcile. We'll type the 0 for you, and we'll put today's date. So those are clearing out in there. Okay. Yes. So that's re-record. Now let's talk about batch change project status. So let me go into let me go back into QuickBooks. Okay. And I'm gonna go into projects. Now, for people that deal with a lot of projects, that are dealing a lot of projects, sometimes you have to change the name of the project because maybe you use the name of the project to do certain filters. That's actually a very common thing where people type something here and they kind of want to find the project quickly by what the word has, because projects are not really easily searchable. So sometimes the name of the project allows you to search it. So for example, let's say I only want to look at what I call my 2025 projects. Okay, so I can just search 2025, and as long as 2025 is in the name, that works. But usually we don't think about typing in those things in the project name. We'll put whatever the project name is called. Sometimes we just want to go back, and I wish I could just go back and amend things to the project or assign them to the format of the project or whatever. So this button here, Batch Edit Projects, allows you to grab multiple projects. Again, it's available in RightTool PRO. You grab multiple projects, okay, whichever projects you want to rename, whichever one they are. You click on Select Batch option, and then you can batch change many things. One of them is you can append something to the project name. So I'm going to click on Append, and then I'll append something like Michael, okay? Or I can do /Michael, whatever it is, right? And you get a little preview of what it looks like after you append. So what this system will do is automatically go in there and add names or prepend or append or do a find and replace. There's all sorts of different things to the project. So once you do that, when you go into search here and you type Michael, you quickly can find all your projects related to Michael. So it's a super nifty trick to be able to filter, organize projects, maybe be able to select them all in one shot, that sort of thing. Same thing happens. So for example, I wanna close out all my Michael projects, so to speak. Go to Batch Edit. I can then search Michael here. Okay, these are all my Michael projects. I can select all, batch select options, and let's say I want to change all of these to in progress or completed. Go to apply change, go back and apply to these. So if you work with projects at all, you must be absolutely floored. And if you work with projects, construction clients, and you're not like super excited about this, if you're not like ecstatic, jumping out of your seat out of excitement, then quite simply, you have no soul. What can I tell you? Next one. Next one is auto remove bank feeds AI suggestions. So I'll go to RightTool options, and then let me just put here suggestions because I don't remember. Okay, so I actually made a mistake. I said that this one was available in the free edition. It's not available in the free edition. It's only available in the pro edition. That was my mistake. So basically everything I'm listing here is only available in the pro edition of RightTool. And by the way, if you're an accounting professional with multiple clients, you shouldn't be using the free edition of RightTool. We made the free edition for end users, for business owners. For accountants, you should be on the pro edition because you're going to get all these cool features. So we have the auto remove bank feed AI suggestions. So what essentially happens is when you are in bank feeds or your bank transactions, sometimes, and I'm not speaking in behalf of the entire accounting community, sometimes that AI suggestion, it's a very pesky thing. Like some accountants just get completely triggered by the AI suggestions. Sometimes because the suggestions are not very good, others because it takes like literally half the screen. So right now we have them set up to just suppress that, get rid of that. That way, that big box, if it bothers, and again, everybody has their own taste. Everybody has their own point of view. If that box of AI suggestions bothers you, then you can remove it. Now, in contrast, I can simply just get rid of that, turn it back on. That way, when we look at this transaction, you can get your AI suggestions back. Now, we're not stopping QuickBooks from making the AI suggestion. All we're doing is we're suppressing it so it doesn't take half your screen. Okay, so it's mostly a real estate issue where where this takes a lot of space, and a lot of accounting professionals that I know, they just say, look, I just can't trust it. It's not useful for me. even though I can go here and click on this is not useful, it doesn't really do much, right? So again, it's only for those that just want to kind of get rid of that and have the full space to work on their drop-down menus and to do the actual manual accounting process. So again, check it out. We also have Reconcile Helper and Merge Vendors, which are game-changing tools. All right, let's go into QuickBooks Online Accountant. The reason why most of you are here, what's new in the QuickBooks world. So I'm going to start by logging into my QuickBooks Online Accountant. So you may have noticed, and I realize that not everybody has had sort of the change in UI, but that there's a bar, a dark green bar on top of the screen that says Intuit Accountant Suite. QuickBooks is no longer using the QuickBooks Online Accountant terminology. They're using the Intuit Accountant Suite terminology. If you don't have the screen yet, you can click on the gear menu, and there should be a switch to Intuit Accountant Suite and a way to upgrade or downgrade. Now, they call it an upgrade, they call it a downgrade. That's all arguable. One thing to keep in mind is there's actually multiple new offerings. There's multiple new offerings that are going to replace what QuickBooks used to call QuickBooks Online Accountant. And those offerings are actually proposed. I'm just going to come in here really quick. I'm going to change the order of the slides here so we can go at the same exact order. Okay. So when you go and you upgrade, they're going to give you two options. One is Intuit Accountant Suite Core. Essentially, it's just a name change. You subscribe to it or upgrade to it. And basically is a new name for the old thing that you had. It doesn't cost anything. They're not really adding a lot of new features to it. There's some general aesthetic things and some features inside each of the QuickBooks Online company files. But in terms of the experience as an accountant, that's not changing quite a bit. And right now you have the option to opt in and upgrade to Intuit Accountant Core. It's free and it'll continue to be free according to their announcement forever. However, there's now going to be a paid offering. There's going to be a premium upgraded version of QuickBooks Online Accountant called Intuit Accountant Suite Accelerate. They have not announced the price, but when you upgrade to it, they do require you to put a credit card. Now, they say you're not going to be charged anything, but they require you to put a credit card because get ready, if you want Intuit Accountant Suite Accelerate, you will pay. Now, will it be a flat fee per firm or a fee per client? I actually don't know. It's not very clear to us. What we do know is a whole bunch of things are coming with this upgrade. So what's interesting here is that Intuit now again sees accountants as their customers, someone that's going to pay them money just to practice, just to have QuickBooks Online Accountant. So hopefully, and then some people are hopeful that by charging something for it, people are going to, I mean, QuickBooks is going to just make it better, I guess, right? It's not free anymore. Like they actually have to respond to real customers. Now, could this be $100 a year? Could this be $10 a month? Could this be $50 a month? I have no clue. I have no inside information. I'm not even close to knowing what this could cost. What I do know is what it has available now, which is what I'm going to show you. Before I show you that, I'm going to talk about the newest sort of upgrades to the QuickBooks Online Accountant under this new name, Intuit Accountant Suite. So when you click here on Pro Advisor, you can click here where it says Manage Training. So for those firm owners, firm managers that have multiple employees, you can now view your whole team and the kind of certifications that they have, what is in progress, what courses are in progress. This is super neat. So one simple place to track where everybody in your team is when it comes to QuickBooks or Intuit related training and certifications. Here under Customize, you can choose what columns you want to see. One thing that's really interesting about QuickBooks and the whole ecosystem is that these this style of row customization and columns are very common, and it's almost coming into all of the QuickBooks ecosystem. If you go to Pro Advisor Academy, which used to be called Pro Advisor Training or Pro Advisor Certification, you're going to see they have a lot of interesting programs here. They have a new course called Client Advisory Services Foundation, basically teaching you how to give advice or create advisory services for your clients. There's also bookkeeping certification, QuickBooks Online certification. So there's a lot of interesting things in here. There's also very specialty type of certifications. There's payroll, QuickBooks Desktop for those that pay for the desktop, and enterprise. And I assume that at some point they'll have something on payments and bill pay and all the other add-ons that QuickBooks creates over time. So there's a lot of interesting just courses in here. There's also this one called AI for Accounting that has a lot of interesting content. Okay, so you can just sign in. It's not a certification, but you can go in there and learn. Like this one specifically is on what QuickBooks calls AI agents that Intuit creates. So if you're wondering what exactly is Intuit doing behind the scenes with all these quote AI agents, this course kind of walks you through all of it. So definitely check it out. I checked it out. It's okay. Not so impressed by it. Like I don't walk out feeling smarter, that's for sure. But at least I walk out knowing more about what QuickBooks is doing in terms of what they're trying to do with all their new features and the AI agents. So that's a new updated Pro Advisor training. The next one that we're going to talk about is, let's just go over here, is the new client list. So let's go back into my QuickBooks Line Accountant. I'm going to go into client list. So this new client list screen is really, really nifty. You get your client names, you get email ID, client type, actions. Under actions, this is all new. I mean, this is all old with the exception of assign custom leads. I mean, custom fields. This is awesome. Okay, you can actually grab multiple customers at once. Look at this. I can grab multiple customers and assign custom fields. This is new. This is brand new in the QBO world, being able to batch apply custom fields to customers. Unfortunately, inside QuickBooks Online Accountant, when dealing with your clients' files, there's no batch custom fields. This is only within the context of your firm's books and adding custom fields to your clients inside your firm's books. But if they are smart, they will grab this functionality and allow you to apply custom fields to customers inside QBO, vendors, projects. That would be awesome to have that. But having that glimpse of that is really cool. They also have this new concept called client numbers, particularly for large firms that there's so many ABC Corps type of companies. The company name is not as important. So they'll kind of code their clients by like a folio number or a client number or something like that. So you can do that. So we can turn on these features and we can see that in a snapshot, I can see my client number, which I can actually import. Like if I have a spreadsheet with them, I can import my client list. I'll basically just download my client list. If I have a CSV file of that client list, I'll open it here so you see what I mean. And let's open up that file. There we go. Let me grab it here to the right. Let me zoom in so you can see. So your entire client list gets exported. And then all you have to do is add your numbers here. Whatever the numbers are, you're going to fill in those numbers in there. And then you come back and go to choose file, grab the file. You click on upload, and then it walks you to the process of uploading all your client names or your client numbers into your clients. Okay, so your numbers start getting filled in. You also, within this screen, you can see which version of QuickBooks Online they have, whether it's canceled or not. If they have more products like payroll, that bill pay, if they have attached apps. It's a really, really cool snapshot where you can kind of just get a bird's eye view of all your client files. So this is amazing. I love this feature. There's also this one called client invitations. So something that's really interesting now, your clients can invite you instead of by email, where you have to, log into the email and click accept and all that stuff. You can just give your clients your firm ID, and they can plug that firm ID, and then instead of being an email process, it's just straight into firm ID, and then you'll see them in this page. So it's going to be a much faster, quicker way of getting added to your clients' books by firm ID. So I'm really liking that new client list. Now, one of the major new features that come along this new Intuit Accountant Suite, I believe this one's only going to be available in the Accelerate edition. Right now, I'm not paying for the Accelerate, and I have it. So I'm assuming that that's where it is, because I did sign up for it. And the way it works is you go into here where it says Client Insights, you click on Overview, and then you have 3 predetermined ones, which is balance sheet data, P&L data, and bookkeeping data. And then you can create your own custom views in whichever way, shape, or form you want. So I'm going to show you. I'm going to start from scratch, because it's actually the easiest thing to do. We click on Create New Data, and then we have P&L data, balance sheet data, bookkeeping data. So I'm just going to go Create View. And then I pick the date range. So let's say I want to look at everybody for last year. And then by default, it puts in high-level P&L information: revenue, cost of goods sold, expenses, net income, gross margin, net profit. This is snapshot, bird's eye view of all your clients and all the numbers in one page. Now, if you click on Go to Client Reports, it actually logs you into the client file, which is great. When I click on Customize here, I can choose what I want to see here. So I can get rid of all these and say, you know what? I want to do AR past due, AP past due, AR balances, AP balances, and current ratio. Let's say that's what I want to see. Boom. That is my snapshot. Let's say, for example, I don't want to see that. I want to see which one has disconnected banks or apps issues or total bank balances or undeposited funds or uncategorized expenses. X out of that. And again, high level view of everything that's going on. And then if you click on any of these, it takes you into the diagnostic screen, the pop-up, letting you know, okay, so we have 16 apps with issues. It tells you all the apps that got disconnected. If you click on this one, we got 4 bank accounts connected. It tells you here all these bank accounts got disconnected. So super, super great way to sort of diagnose everything that's going on in here. So you pick and choose what you want to see. You can filter also. So if you want to say, you know what, I only want to see my QuickBooks Online Advanced clients, click on Apply. It'll only show you those 2. Let's say I want to see all my Plus clients only, and the Advanced and Plus, those 2, and I can choose. So it depends on which way, shape, or form you want to do your analysis. You can also filter by custom field. So for example, I have a custom field called Industry. I only want to see, let's say, my automotive customers or my professional service customers, and put here all, or my, let's say, my professional services or my contractors. So I get to pick based on any custom field, which customers I want to see in here. Okay, these custom field things are a little bit tricky, but that's exactly what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to help you filter based on that custom field. And I showed you earlier how to add those custom fields in batch. You can search by a specific client. So I type the word auto, and it'll just filter and show me the clients that have the word auto in it. So makes it super easy. Very, very powerful. Right now, it's available in mine because I signed up for Intuit Accountant Suite Accelerate. I'm not paying for this right now, but this is one of the features that I believe you have to be on the paid version of Intuit Accountant Suite to be able to access. This is the primary value proposition, is having this dashboard. So if you click on the gear menu down here at the bottom, you should be able to upgrade. You should be able to test it right now. And I believe it'll be free through the end of the year. So you can test it, see if it works before jumping in and paying for Intuit Accountant Suite. So you can have this also, there's predetermined, you can create your own views and save them. So basically you can have your own dashboard. That's the client insights. Really cool. The other one that I actually don't know what opinion to give on this. I don't know how much I like this, or if I don't like it. I don't know if I'm confused by it. I don't know why it exists, but I'll show you. There is an area inside QuickBooks Online Accountant or Intuit Accountant Suite called Work Project Tasks Template. So I'm going to come in here and show you. So it's here in the work section. And if you click on projects, basically these are projects for your accounting firm dealing with clients. Okay, that's kind of what it is. So the way you create a project is you click on create project. You pick a template, and we'll go back and look at templates for a second. So let's say payroll template. You pick the client that you want to set up this task list for, okay? And then you assign it to someone in your firm or yourself. You create a due date, let's say the 30th of November, and we put everything in there to do, and you can actually make it a monthly recurring thing if you have a recurring project, recurring engagement, whatever you want to call it, with that particular client. Then when you click on save, it'll basically create the task for you. It creates the task, it assigns them to you, sets a due date. You can either edit the task, delete it, or mark it as complete, or in progress. Okay, and the idea is that in a high level, you see how many tasks are created. When I go back and look at my projects, I get to see 3 out of 5 tasks are done. Now there's predetermined templates. So if I click on manage templates, there's predetermined templates here that I can edit. Let's look at this bookkeeping template. This is the list of tasks: audit and close timesheets, apply timesheets, bill, pay, due, collect. You create these. These are your own custom ones you can create. So I can create my own template. And basically, I'm going to call it my quarterly advisory / tax planning. Okay. And then I go into first task and I go reconcile. And I'll put here, make sure all banks and credit cards are reconciled. So that could be the first task. Second task could be verify. So, verify with client that numbers make sense. And you create your entire custom list, right? Your custom list of all your tasks. You save the template. Once you have a template, in the future, simply you go to create project, pick your client that this matters for, whoever the client might be, apply the template, quarterly advisory, assign it to yourself or someone in your firm, click on save, and boom, those 3 tasks will be created. So if I go back here and click on all tasks, you see all the tasks that are assigned to me across multiple clients. When I go to filter, I can say, you know what? Just show me the ones for client A or client B. So I can filter for a particular client if I want to, or I can view all my tasks. I can also choose the specific person in my team. So it is a mini practice management software that is going to compete with the well-known practice management software like Keeper, formerly known as Keeper, or Double, or Financial Sense, or Canopy, or Carbon, whatever practice management software you use, this is going to mimic that. Now, this area works like this, and it's not tied to any of your actual QuickBooks data. And the reason why I said I'm not 100% sure why this exists, because I don't see the tie with the stuff that's actually useful, which is called the books close. So we're going to move on to books close, which should be the next in my slides. Yeah, there you go. We're going to move on to books close. And this is their flagship product. This is the product that, that is supposed to stand out and above the fray and really help them become uncomparable with all the other practice management software out there. Why? Because QuickBooks has access to the books. QuickBooks has much more intimate API access and control. So the value proposition in this is that you are using this as a practice management software, as a task management software, but you're also on the fly cleaning up, making edits, fixing actual bookkeeping data problems. So let me explain. First, I'm going to click on onboard close client. I'm going to pick the client that I want to do a close for. So let's say I want to close my sample construction company. I assign it to, let's say, to myself. And I pick one of my templates. Similar to the other system, there are built-in templates. So I'm just going to pick on books close, and then the period is October, whatever period it is. And this is really meant to be in a monthly basis. So I'm going to click on save and start close, and I'm going to start the close process with this client. Now, similar to the way you create the project and the tasks, there's a predetermined list of tasks. These tasks, just like the other screen, but now they're grouped by sort of stage. So we got 5 major groupings here, 6 major groupings. One is the pre-close, and you can create your own. So you can say, collect all docs, whatever it is, right? And we'll assign it to me. And it's just one more task that's in there, and I could choose, whether or not it gets completed or not. Then I have account reconciliation. This actually logs into your QuickBooks Online client, takes a look at every single account, and tells you whether or not the account has been reconciled or when it was reconciled through. And it allows you to create a specific task to reconcile that particular account for a particular person. So it helps you do that. Okay. And then from this screen, you can change whether it's in progress, whether it's blocked because the customer hasn't been able to give you information or whatever. To do in progress, you can change all these. Unfortunately, you can't do them in batch. It would be nice if I could select a bunch and mark complete or in progress or whatever. So you can't do that. So you have to do one by one. That's kind of the annoying part, and in one way, shape, or form, kind of a deal breaker for me. But you have a list of all the actual accounts in your ledger that are reconcilable that show up in there. At remove, you can actually choose which accounts you want to add to the list. So I also want to reconcile my payroll liabilities and my customer deposit. And they say I don't want to reconcile petty cash. You get the choice, right? Whatever you choose goes in here is what goes on the list of things that are becoming tasks. So you're tying the particular GL account with the task management software, which is really interesting. If you click on any of these, like view and reconcile, it'll basically it'll log you into the client's books and help you reconcile the account straight from here. And then once you finish, and this is really the nice piece, is that once you finish, you didn't log out of your QuickBooks Online accountant login. You didn't log out of your Intuit accountant suite. You stayed logged in. So you don't have to deal with the logging in and logging out, logging in and logging out. Okay. So again, if you already use practice management software, this is probably something you're used to, because practice management software has focused on doing this for years. Now, here's the part that really, really starts standing out. It's called a transaction review. Basically, QuickBooks has chosen specific workflows for you, the ones that are most typical. Maybe they looked at what everybody does. Maybe they surveyed some people. Maybe they guess. I don't know how they came up with these, but they figured out that these are the typical things that an accountant or bookkeeper goes through every month to close the books. One, for example, is transactions without payees. So it already for you, for the period being reviewed, it already selected all the transactions that are missing payees or vendors. It shows them to you right there. You get to see the description. Okay. Maybe that's relevant, maybe it's not. But from this screen, you can add attachments. Again, it's really cool. I didn't have to get out of Intuit Accountant Suite and into the client file. Everything happens at this level. I can manually change the categories of all these transactions if I want to. Okay. So anything I want to change the category on, no problem. I can add classes or locations for any of these, assuming that I have classes or locations involved in here. I can add customer projects, again, all on the fly here. And I can select a bunch of transactions and make the corrective action. So I can go to edit and say, you know what? This is really supposed to be a different category. And this is supposed to be this class. And this is supposed to be this customer project. Hold on for a second. Think about this. We finally have a way of grabbing a bunch of transactions in batch and batch assigning missing customer jobs and projects. That is huge. You can also assign the vendor. So again, we started with the fact that these transactions were missing a vendor. So I can pick and choose which of these are here. Now, Books Close is currently in beta testing. And from the best of my understanding, this would be a paid service only. I don't think you're going to get this for free. I wouldn't imagine that Intuit will go to the distance of building something as powerful as this and making it free. So I think this will either be something they charge you per client, similar to how most practice management software that actually connect to QuickBooks files charge you, where they'll charge you per client, or maybe they'll include 50 clients or something, for a fixed fee. I don't know. They haven't announced it. There's actually no hints as to what the pricing model will be. What we do know is that it works, and it works extremely well. That's really cool. So there's all the grouping here. So transaction posted to parent accounts. So in the in anything that's assigned to a parent account, so basically an account that has sub accounts, and you probably don't want it to go into a parent account, it's labeled here. So if I wanted to fix it, select all, click on edit, and then assign it to the proper account that I want. So let's say I wanted to go straight into the sub account, click on apply, and I will fix that. Okay. Then we have expenses and bills without attachments. So anything that's missing an attachment will be here. You can click on this button, grab an attachment, and quickly add attachments, to missing transactions. So this is awesome. So I could quickly have basically a worksheet, a workflow for adding attachments. So it's really, really neat. Transactions greater than 2,500. Now, that's the threshold they gave you. So the threshold is 2,500, but you can make whatever threshold you want. So you want to make it 500, you want to make it 5,000, you can do whatever you want. The next one is transactions auto added by bank rules. So if your bank rules are adding things automatically, they will show up in here. Transactions auto posted by AI. It says coming soon, so that's not working yet. Unclear transactions before October 31st. That's also pretty neat. So anything essentially that hasn't been cleared, it shows up here. I'm going to take a moment to address the chat for a second. I strongly recommend you leave this webinar and go to the other webinar that this conflicts with. I actually don't care that this conflicts with another webinar, and I don't need to be bothered by the chat of people asking how long the webinar is or whether or not it conflicts. If you have an issue with that, get two computers, do that. I want the chat to be questions about what I'm covering. And whether or not it conflicts, that's your problem, not mine. I take my time to do this and to create this for the community. And I don't think any other webinar in the world surpasses the quality of the work that I put here. Please do not flood the channel with questions about how long the webinar is or whether or not you're conflicted because you need to be somewhere else. Simply log out and watch the recording later. I want to be able to read the chat and answer questions that people have about the content that I'm putting, period. All right. So this is really useful contextually because generally the stuff that we have to troubleshoot are duplicate transactions, are junk transactions, transactions that don't need to be there. And generally, after you have reconciled the books, those things that are sitting there are probably things that you have to delete. Where QuickBooks, in my opinion, missed the mark is that typically on this area where it says unclear transactions, generally, we're not going to be like batch editing a transaction that has been uncleared. What we'll be doing is deleting or voiding. As a matter of fact, I stand corrected. I think QuickBooks heard me, and I think Intuit followed my advice on the previous webinar that I actually did on this, or the video that I created. I kind of said out loud that it kind of makes no sense for this not to have a batch delete or batch void. But matter of fact, I stand corrected. This is amazing, absolutely amazing. So now I see all my unclear transactions before October 31st, which is supposedly when I cleared my books, when I'm doing the books close. I can now batch void, or I guess maybe. Let's see if I could do it like this. Can I batch void? Okay. So it's a tease. It's a tease. It looks like, there's a void button, but it doesn't let you do it yet. So that's probably them just saying, okay, we're listening to you. We're working on it, but that's going to be really cool. Can I batch delete? No. Okay. So it's just QuickBooks maybe telling me that it's coming, but that's what I meant by they missed the mark. Like what would be truly useful is that I complete the deletion. It looks like it doesn't work. So it looks like they're working on it. It means that, that's sort of, maybe they did the pop-up, but they didn't finish the function. So this is the beta version, okay? And I suspect that once this goes from beta to full version, that's when they'll start charging for it, okay? Expensive without customers or projects. Again, sometimes we have projects, we have customers, jobs that we need to add, edit. We can always batch add customer projects from here. It's pretty amazing. I love it, okay? And then we have transactions created manually. These are transactions that were not entered through bank feeds, that were maybe entered, by hand, keyed in or something like that. And these could have some sort of, they could be relative. Again, I don't know why the void and delete button is not working. Maybe that's the beta portion. What's also cool here is that you have this button here called Edit Exclusions. And this is where you get to pick what transaction types you don't want to see here. So let's say I don't want to see any deposits. Click on Save. Deposits are gone. Let's say I don't want to see anything from this particular set of vendors. Click on Apply. Those go away. Let's say I don't want to see any ones that are in advertising because I already reviewed advertising because that's working, et cetera, et cetera. So I like the exclusions because it allows me to really customize the transactions that I can see in here. And the Customize button actually allows me to choose what columns I want to see. So let's say I don't want to see attachments, or I don't want to see transaction posted. I don't want to see status, whatever it is, right? I get to pick and choose how much data I want to see. I love this alternative row. They've actually been adding this alternative row button into almost every one of the screens. Also, how many transactions I want to see in one shot. This is great. Intuit is really, really creating really great interfaces with this. And what's also really cool is each of these screens have its own zoom, full screen, let's call it. When you click on that, then you're not bothered by everything else, all the headers and the footers. Basically, you get to zoom in. Okay. I'm gonna hit back for a second because that zoom in went way too deep, and didn't let me scroll back up to zoom out. So that's that area, right? That large area there that has all the transactions review. Intuit might refer to this as anomaly detection. So just in case you hear the term anomaly detection, that's exactly what they mean. This all area, these are the anomalies. Something else worth mentioning is there's a status button. It actually has nothing to do with whether it's reconciled or not. It's actually one of the things I've asked Intuit repeatedly, that I want to see whether or not this transaction has been reconciled. It's relevant to me if I'm looking at a transaction, whether it's been reconciled or not. This is nothing to do with that. This has to do on whether or not it should still be on this list. It's possible that these transactions, there's nothing wrong with them. I don't have to edit them. I don't have to change them. So what I can do is I can just click on the checkbox and then I remove them from the list. So they're no longer transactions I want to review. So not all transactions that are anomalies, so to speak, actually you have to do something with them. So that's actually really useful. What has never been clear to me is exactly how to bring them back if they have already been moved there. Oh yeah, it is here under to do. So if I click on mark resolved, I go back and look at the ones that I put the checkbox on. So that's actually pretty nifty. So the to-do are the ones that we haven't marked. And then if I click on all, we show all of them, both checked and unchecked. And generally the date range is going to be the closing period, but you can also expand that date range if you need to. In some of these screens, you have this thing called inclusions, which is similar to exclusions. But in this case, is which accounts do you want to include? The uncategorized transactions focuses on uncategorized income, expenses, and assets. But you can include more expense categories as well. So that's actually pretty neat. You know, what would be the ultimate thing is that I could create my own anomaly detection and I can tell it exactly the type of anomalies that I look for. That way, as part of my workflow, I look at the type of transactions that I generally look for. I assume that's coming at some point. Intuit always watches my webinars and looks at the content that I do and generally follows my advice passively. They generally do. And then the final review, these are just list of tasks. There's really nothing to do this other than printing the report. So you can quickly print the report. Again, this is great because I don't have to log in into the QBO. I don't have to log out of QBOA, log in into the QBO file. I can look at the report straight from here. Okay, so you can get to preview the report. And then from here, you can go to QuickBooks or whatever. What would be really awesome is if I could email the reports from here or batch send them. That would be pretty awesome, but that's not available yet. And then the additional items, again, these are just like tasks that you create and mark completed. And the last one is I send the customer everything and has it been complete, yes or no. If I click on view, that would actually send you into management reports, which we're going to talk about in a little bit. I just want to make sure that I have covered everything that I wanted to cover. Okay, yes, I have. And now we're going to go to QBO all versions. Now, I'd like to take a second to drink some water. I'm going to monitor the chat. If you have any questions about what I've covered, you're not sure about, go ahead and ask the questions, and I'll go ahead and answer them. So if you want to, ask the questions. Somebody's asking, do you know when it will be fully released? I don't know. They haven't said it. They have said that through the year, it'll be free, but I'm not sure. At some point, at the beginning of 2026, they'll give us a price and tell us very clear what's free, what's paid, that sort of thing. Let's see what other questions we have. Somebody says, when I turn on Accountant Suite, is it just for me or for the whole firm? That's a great question. I'm going to make the assumption, again, just an assumption, Megan, that when you turn it on, it's for the whole firm. It would be pretty awkward if some of the firm members don't have this version and some do. So I'm actually going to think, I think that when you turn it on, it's for everybody, and that's it. Somebody says, how long is the trial period? So the way Intuit proposed it is, even though you're putting a credit card in, you will be warned many times before they start charging you. So for the time being, for the most part, you should probably feel safe that even though you put a credit card to show that you're serious and you're testing this new system for free, that you will be told much time in advance how much will be charged and when you will be charged. But it's not really clear for us if you are going to, or when they will start charging for this. So I clicked it, I put my credit card in, worst case scenario, they charge me a month, I'll call in and complain, right? But I'm pretty sure it's fine that you can just start testing it. Like, don't be so afraid of putting the credit card in, test it. That way you know exactly what it can do when it comes time to use it. Okay, now we're going to go to a lot of sort of little things that QuickBooks has added across the board, all the QuickBooks files. They're really interesting things. And if you haven't discovered, I'm pretty certain that that a lot of these things are going to make the webinar worth it from a productivity standpoint. There's a lot of cool little things. So the first one is here where it says pinned. You used to be limited to only 3. If you want to pin what they're calling your apps, the most common areas you access, now you can pin more than 3. So just a little thing. It used to be limited to 3. Now you can have as many as you want. And when you change the order, Then you click here on more. This is the exact order of the areas in QuickBooks, or what they're calling the apps that you access the most. I mean, if you click on all apps, everything's available here, but some people like to go into pin and just go kind of focused approach into what they see. Small change, but useful. Now, this was a kind of a big deal. It's called export and paste inside transactions. This was a very, very quiet release, so to speak. I'm going to open a bill. I'm going to try to see if I find a bill that has sort of a lot of moving parts. So that'll be useful. Okay, this is a really good example. So you have a bill, you have a check, you have an expense, you have a credit card charge, and you have a list of products and services, descriptions, rates, amounts, all this type of information, or in the account category. There's a little export button now that allows you to export just that grid. Super clean export. When I click on export, it creates an Excel file. Let's close the old Excel file and let's bring the new Excel file in. And I'm gonna zoom this in so it's easier to read. There we go. And this is basically a little table of everything that was shown in here. Now, let's say that I want to modify these things in batch. Let's say I want to make them all the same item. So I just come in here, copy and paste in Excel. This is a beautiful part. Let's say, for example, I want to multiply these amounts times 2, whatever it is, right? Click and bring that down. And then I'll copy and paste this over the rate here. Same thing here. Again, this is for people that are Excel nerds like me, right? Like I want to make the changes in Excel, right? Let's say I want to change my customer job. Let's say I want to put a different customer job here. Let's say I want that customer job. So I'll copy this. And I go back into my Excel and put that customer job and bring it throughout. Let's say I want to have a different class. So let me just copy one of these classes that are here. And again, you know your classes, you know what you're supposed to put in here in your jobs. Put your class, there we go. So basically I've copied a template, so to speak, have it in Excel, can play with it in Excel. And then let's say I'm gonna go and create a new, so I can replace over the new one, or I can just create a new bill. So let me create a new bill here. And now I can go back into my Excel. I can copy this data and then click here. And this doesn't always work. I have to warn you, QuickBooks, like all things QuickBooks releases, everything kind of half works. And I've done this demo 50 times, and out of 50 times, maybe 40 has worked correctly. So it's a possibility before I click there, some things won't come. I just want to kind of preface that. So I'm going to click there on the little paste button, and the data comes in. Okay. It looks like most of it came in. Not all of it came in, or it kind of sort of came in with some errors, but that's kind of the concept. Now, if I actually go back and pull up that same original bill, okay, which has the exact same column configuration, and that's the part that QuickBooks hasn't really quite figured out, is what happens when this column configuration kind of becomes a challenge. I'm going to paste back in there. Okay, so like, for example, it had a tough time, with this additional column. So one thing that's kind of dumb about QuickBooks, and I'm sorry, Intuit people, I don't know why you guys don't like think these things through or test them. This new column called classification code, I have no idea what this is. Doesn't exist. It's not a thing. It's causing me pasting problems. So now I literally have to delete the column. I have to kind of do a little troubleshooting. Again, not a perfect world. And then try this again. Copy this and paste it again. Let me just clear this. Copy this one more time and paste it now. Hopefully now it works. There you go. So it's just one of those little things that you kind of have to be on top of. Sometimes QuickBooks gets a tough time testing these things, but the idea is incredible. The idea is really, really incredible. I haven't tested by copying the header as well. So I'm so used to pasting things by excluding the headers. So we could test it here live. Let's do it including the headers. And no, it's not smart enough to remove the headers. So you have to do the extra work and remove the headers before you paste. But I'm telling you, man, this thing is awesome. And this was heavily inspired by a feature in RightTool that we call paste, in transactions. And I love it. I mean, this is something that we've been clamoring for. This will be super useful. It's not available in sales transactions yet, unfortunately, but it's available in all the expense transactions. I like it. And, the closer they get me to something really functional in here, the better. Another thing that's a very minor change, it's really useful, is that they have improved this create experience. So it's hard to, I don't have like an old version to showcase, but there used to be this really strange behavior when you click out of it, click in it. So you can hover over it and you can work in it, so that you can do that. Or you can click it and leave it and have it fixed. So I'm liking this experience a lot with the new create button. It's just behaving a lot better. Okay, and the other thing is when you hover over it and then click on tab, you can tab through them. Now, actually, it might be wrong. This tabbing actually works only because RightTool is installed. Never mind. This is actually not a built-in QuickBooks feature. So being able to tab through them is something that you get when you install RightTool on top of that. It's a little tiny interface change. But I'm really liking this improvement on just the animation. The way this create button works is actually an overall improvement. So worth mentioning that. The next one is you can now right click on bookmarks. So one of the things that a lot of users used to hate about this new bookmarks menu is, whichever screen you happen to be in. So let's say, for example, I create a bookmarks for this screen. So I'll go into bookmarks and create this bookmark. Go to add current page, call vendors. So one of the things that drove people crazy is when you go into bookmarks and you right click because you wanted to open a new tab, that new tab, new window button wasn't there before. So they recently fixed it. So anything you add into the bookmarks, you can simply right click, open new, copy the link address. Again, small thing, but it had irritated a lot of people that they can't right click into there. I like the fact that you can search transactions by custom fields. That's also new. So when you go into your advanced search, if you have any custom fields in your company file, here where it says customize, you can actually bring them afloat. So you can say, look, this custom field here called birthday or whatever. I can bring it up here. So let's say I'm tracking birthdays for projects or whatever, or I'm tracking anniversaries, whatever it is, right? So now you can use these fields to search through your custom fields. So that wasn't available before, where your custom fields were front and center for searching. So I'm liking that a lot. Another thing that I like, I think is going to be here about the search, is the ledger accounts showing the search now. I love that. So if you're in the search and I type like advertising expense or something like that, yeah, if I scroll down, now you have a category called ledger accounts. If I click on that, if it's an expense account, income account, but P&L account in general, it will open a report for me. And if it's a balance sheet account, so for example, let's say I type bank, and then down here in the bottom, there is, maybe that's not a good idea. Let me see if I type checking. Okay, so we got, company checking account. If I click on that, it takes me into the register. So now I have quick access into a P&L account report or a balance sheet account ledger, which is awesome. Okay, so it's usually the little things that are the best. Now the customer screen is getting updated. Now there's a lot, between you and me, there's a lot of stuff missing still there. And I kind of have to go, I find myself going back and forth in different, the old version and the new version. So the new version is really cool because you have the same filtering mechanism where you can virtually add any of the common fields that we would filter or group our customers by, including, let's say, billing state or shipping zip code, whatever it is. So you can bring them up to the top. Okay, and you can choose how you want to interact with your customer screen. So let's say, for example, that the billing city or customer type or whatever is it that I bring up, let me just bring that up again. Bring it up when I go into filters, the stuff that I deal with is billing state. So if I type CA, click apply, it only shows me my California customers. So I really like, this is actually great, okay, especially with the big client list. And I want to sort and group by, well, there's no grouping yet, but at least be able to filter and sort by. I love this. So there's a lot of flexibility in these fields. Not every field is here. Like for some reason, the custom fields are not showing here. I don't know why, but it is what it is. And there's also another tab here called customers with unpaid invoices. So any customers that have unpaid invoices, including projects, show up in here, which is really useful. But sometimes, you know, like there's other, if you look at the old screen in has the custom fields, see anniversary type. So these are custom fields. Also, you get the option to include projects or not. So the old customer screen has the option to include and exclude projects, but the new customer screen doesn't have that, and it doesn't have the ability to show projects, and it doesn't have the ability to show custom fields. So hopefully somebody in Intuit is watching this, looking at this, and going, "Whoops, we know we made a mistake. Go fix it as soon as possible." Okay, but you have access to filtering by almost any field. Super useful. So I'm liking it, but some components of the old one are missing. All right, let's go to QuickBooks Online Reports. This is going to be a big one, a huge one. So I'm going to start with default report settings. Now, you might not see this available across all the QuickBooks files, but probably the single most important significant change I've seen is being able to change the way the reports look like when you first open them. Now, the only report type anyway that I see working is for summary reports. I don't see this feature working for detailed reports yet. Now, keep in mind that some of these new customer screens and some of these report screens are not available across all QuickBooks files. So if you're trying to look at this in your file and you don't see it, it's because they haven't added it to yours yet. So there's no like magic button to go turn on the features. They either give it to you or didn't give it to you, and you might have to wait until it comes in. Same thing with this concept of default report settings. So again, it only works with like the summary reports, but I'm crossing my fingers and waiting until they give me this for the detail reports and the drill down reports, because that's when this stuff will become really useful. So some of the things that I can do is I can choose what color to highlight my data columns. I can band these with whatever color I want. So I can choose any banding color. And I can also choose whether or not, these are going to have lines. Okay. Is it going to have a box, horizontal only? I love this. I love this level of customization because, visually I may want the report to look one way or the other. I can also choose, if I wanted this to be on the right side, if I want to show the report period, company name, I get to choose all this. In the footer, where do I want to put this information? Okay, number. And I'm really liking the fact that you can now show 3 decimal spaces. So before you used to be limited to just 2. Now you can do 3. Now, I don't know why, because I've never been able to add 3 decimal spaces in transactions in QuickBooks specifically. But I don't know. Maybe some people like to see 3 decimal spaces. I'm still yet to see the use case in which this is useful. There's always rounding up if you don't want to see any decimals. But I find this cool regardless, right? Like I've looked at like 100 files. I'm lying. Maybe like 20 files that have this. And I haven't seen one report in which that last decimal is something other than a 0. So I'm not sure in what use case that would be useful. And there's also, whether or not it's compact, comfort, cozy. You get to choose that. What I don't see is the default zoom setting or font size, which we'll talk about briefly. But this is really, really cool. So the way you access this, assuming that your QuickBooks file, they have added this into, it's going to be in the gear menu, top right. and it says default report settings. Okay. Again, default report settings. If you have it enabled in your company file, you will see that. And you get to choose what the report looks like. Especially with these new colors, they're pretty awesome. So one of my favorite so far for reports. The next one is called sticky report headers. I suspect that some of you will be getting off your seat, clapping and dancing after hearing this. But you see this report heading? It's now sticky. So when I scroll up and down, it has this little animation and it sticks up there. That is absolutely necessary. It also works in the drill down. So when I click on the drill down and I scroll down, so wait until that finishes, and I scroll down, I don't lose my headers. Man, that was so important. So important. Now, one thing I need Intuit to do is, okay, this works. Everybody loves it. Make sure that all your screens were like this: banking, customer screen, vendor screen, transaction screen, expense screen, bill screen. I don't care. Whoever made this happen, get that person into fixing every single screen to have this sticky report headers. Extremely, extremely important, extremely valuable. So I'm loving that. Other thing that I like, and it's kind of hard to show on the fly, but is this notion of auto refreshing reports post drill down. So when I'm drilling down into a report, one of the challenges that we have sometimes is that I start from a P&L, I drill down, and then I go edit the transaction. So I said, for example, this transaction, I'm going to edit. I click on this transaction, and I change the amount. And this is assuming that you don't use RightTool, and this is assuming that you don't open these reports in a new screen. This is, a new tab, I meant to say. So assuming that we're all working within the same tab. What's really cool about this is if you open a P&L and drill down, or if you open a balance sheet and drill down, when you come back to this report, I didn't click on anything, it runs the refresh for you automatically. So it saves you that step to run the refresh. And also something that I'm seeing is it also scrolls down and puts you in the last exact place that you were in, so you don't lose your place in line. That's amazing. That's super amazing. And I won't take credit for that, but I know that taking some inspiration of that from what we've done in RightTool. The other thing that's really cool here is the zoom. So if you click up here, you can zoom in and eventually zooms the font in, or you can zoom out. Okay, really, really useful. So you don't have to actually zoom in your screen. So sometimes I am, zooming in the screen versus zooming in the report. I find this super useful. I like it quite a bit. Now here on the general options, you're now going to see where it says row settings and column configuration. This is where you can also pick the colors of your banded rows. So even though I picked it on the default, I can still one by one choose what color I want. Now, this notion of custom color banded rows, I've only seen it in reports. I haven't seen it like in the invoice screen or the bill screen. It would be awesome for them to take the same customization experience through all the screens. I suspect it's going to take a very long time until we can be able to do that. Here in the column settings, I can choose by column, which I love this. By column, I can choose what color I can put in a particular column. So let's say I wanted to highlight my balance and I want to highlight the number. So visually, right, it might be easier for me. Let me pick a different color on this one. It might be easier for me to like read the report, kind of like when you do with Excel. This is super pretty. I love this. It's great. And you can also pick whether or not these get wrapped or truncated. So for example, in the names, if I wrap them, then I don't lose them. So if I put it back to truncate, then maybe I don't get to see all the information, right? So now you have the option to do the wrapping, especially for those long customer names projects. Super, super useful. This is great. Now, what's not clear to me is what their plan is for printing this. So when I go print the report, and I haven't tested this yet, but when I go print the report, I hadn't seen the report printing with the color customization, with all that customization. So I'm going to try it here now to see if the print actually does that. Let me go back here and try to print again. And it's thinking and thinking. I wonder if I actually will be able to print this, or if the printing is temporarily broken because I over customized the report. But that part is just, I'm having a tough time seeing the connection between what I change visually on the screen and what it prints out. I'm not sure if this is something they're working on that's partially broken, partially functional. I'm not sure. Like right now, this is stuck on this screen. It doesn't do anything else. Let me try doing export to PDF. And it just gets stuck there. Maybe the report's too big. Maybe they haven't, they've added this awesome thing, but they broke the printing capabilities. Who knows? Typical QuickBooks. So I'm hopeful that at some point in the near future, this is all fixed, right? But this is like, anytime you see any major changes like this, you're gonna see this sort of growing pains. So, and you also get to choose, what kind of lines you want to see across the board on these. So this level of customization, visual, is awesome. And then once we can print this as well, or create the PDF for this as well, that's going to be a total game changer. But I am beyond excited, these changes on the report side. Okay, so we've covered all these. Now, another kind of interesting thing that I discovered, sort of partially by accident, and I've actually been talking to the report people, to the product manager people to figure it out, is that I was able to group by number, something that you've never been able to do before. So what I mean by that is, right now I'm grouping by account. This is the logical grouping that we're using. Because I'm sort of drilling down from a P&L. But if I go back into the P&L and I drill down into any specific account, so I'm going to go into, let's say, a specific account, specific income account. And in here, I'm seeing transactions that are grouped in a way that's not so useful, right? Because it's grouped by the same account that I saw. I've noticed this, that when I click on group by, I can group by number. Now, this is something I've never seen before, and most people would think, well, Hector, that seems kind of trivial. That's not trivial at all. That's actually the opposite of trivial, because now I have potentially a transaction detail report by specific transaction, okay? And I can collapse these all in one shot, and then maybe I can get rid of some of these columns. Just get rid of some of these details here. Okay, so I have a summary of transaction by number. That's how we identify individual transactions. And if you were to, at some point in the near future, be able to do this from any report, from like the account detail by transaction detail by account, I could potentially even have profitability by invoice by bringing in both the income side and the cost of goods sold side. This is probably going to require a advanced, like QuickBooks Online Advanced, so you can do all sorts of customizations. But this is awesome, and you can see how many lines are in there, and depending on the filters, I can filter out and only see the lines that have dollar amounts and that sort of thing. So there's just a lot of flexibility here when you're able to group by number. At the same time, you can also pivot by number. Again, it's not consistent across all reports. Like it only worked in the report that I told you, the drill down from that. But I really like that. Like being able to group by transaction number is awesome, beyond useful. And I don't know, a lot of people don't see it, but trust me, when you build custom reports for a living, or you build custom reports for a very long time, like I have, you get all these sorts of requests every once in a while. The other thing that I really like is, and this is only in QBO Advanced, just like the other feature, is being able to customize group calculations. So for example, let's say I'm going to get off of the pivot table and I'm going to bring more columns in here. So let's say I'm going to bring this thing called ledger amount. I'm going to bring in, let's say debit, and I'm going to bring in credit. Okay. So I have multiple, essentially I have multiple fields that can have dollar amounts in it. Now with the group calculation, I can actually pick which of these get totaled. So let's say I want a total by quantity or total by debit. I may have to scroll this one kind of to the right here. Let me just bring this debit and credit here, debit, and let's bring credit too. So I get to pick and choose. Again, it's only the advanced edition. I get to pick and choose which ones get subtotal. So I want a subtotal debit, subtotal credits, subtotal amount, or I could choose to only subtotal amounts like this, where I can still look at the debit and the credit if I sort of zoom in and look at the details. So I can still look at it, but it won't subtotal by it. So if I don't want to confuse a user by subtotaling everything that has a number, I pick and choose which of the numerical values I want to subtotal. That's amazing. And you can either do an average, percentage. I find that to be also super useful. So instead of looking at the total invoice amount, I'm seeing the average across all the items. So again, the context in which you would use this, that's all custom, right? That's custom reports are all based on what people need. Now, I'm going to show you one thing that's really, really cool, which is a preview and to a refresh to the UI that you will see in the report. So what I've shown you now, as long as you have QBO Advanced, I think you should be able to see all the things that I looked at. But there's also an upcoming refresh, so like a refresh on top of a refresh that's coming. And this one, only a few files have this. And they've really listened to the customers on this one. Pay attention. Like this is the time to like drop everything else you're doing and take a look at this. Columns by has now been propagated, has been brought to the top. I no longer have to click on customize and then go to whatever the column was here. I think it was called display by or total by. I don't have to do 2 clicks to get there. I can now quickly do it by class or by location or by month. So the old features of being able to quickly group by class, by customer, or by month has now been brought back on this. Again, this is the newest that you might not have access to, the newest refresh that's coming. Also, the quick compare to that has been added in here. Okay, the cash accrual toggle, which I actually think the cash accrual toggle was already there. The cash accrual toggle. So they basically brought up these 2 things. What they've also done is here, so instead of having the 3 little dots with the hidden options, you have zoom in, you have the zoom in, and so zoom and compact view and collapse are all one menu. So in a single menu, you can choose, whether you want compact, cozy, or you want to zoom to a particular font size, or if you want to collapse all the accounts, all in a single menu, which I really, really like. Okay. So again, this is on the new beta testing, new UI that's coming in late November, December for most people. You still have the refresh button up here, all this stuff. Down here, if you scroll all the way to the bottom, so I'm just going to pull up a regular P&L just to make it easier, faster to load. If you scroll all the way to the bottom here, there is a add note button. So the add note button is not somewhere else. It's actually in the bottom, like logically where it needs to be. And now you see this really cool button here that says ask question. So when you click on ask question, and I think Intuit missed the mark on this, you shouldn't have removed me from that P&L. You should have done a little sidebar question, but it takes you to this new Intuit Assist where you can ask it any question, sort of in chat mode. This is their AI, maybe possibly powered by ChatGPT, who knows, way that you can basically interact with your data. So you can ask it any questions and it will pull the data from the report, create reports, answer your questions. anything, almost anything you ask it, as long as it's related to the data in QuickBooks, it will pull a report for you. So I wish they would have done it as a side chat window, so I can kind of look at the report while the side chat window does the work. For now, they chose to use this interface where it just kind of zooms in 100%. Here's a verbal explanation of my breakdown by customer. Super cool. And a graph. Now, what's kind of a waste is, there is a copy and then there's a download. So you can do this download, which is great. And you can copy and paste somewhere. What's kind of a waste is not being able to save this as a template and being able to pull that template every single time. That way I don't have to go prompt it, whatever prompt I have. But because it's a full screen window, I kind of lost the P&L that I was looking at. Now I get it that the more space, the better. So it's just more visually appealing. But I wish I had the option for me to still be able to see my P&L or maybe see a pop-up or something like that. That way I don't lose my report analysis. It's just not very intuitive, so to speak, that I'm looking at a report and I click on ask question and it removes me from that page. So again, it would be awesome to have a side window. Imagine there was a chat window here or a pop-up or a separate window so I can look at these things in tandem. It's 2025. Most people have 2 monitors. I can look at this in a different window. I don't want to lose the report I'm looking at. Now there's a workaround. I can, click here, duplicate. So then I have my P&L on one tab, a duplicate of the P&L on one tab, and then I can click on ask question, and that's a solution. Okay. So then I can just, tap back and forth. But, why make me work extra into it? Like that's what people want. People want, a separate tab with it. They don't want me to close my current P&L while I click on ask questions. Now the customize button is getting overhauled, where it's going to be one big, instead of being a bunch of little side customized buttons, there's just one customized button that has everything. The filters are here. You scroll down and there's the number formatting. You scroll down, there's the non-zero. You scroll down, there's the header, the footer, the section titles. Now they brought the old section titles that have been working in old reports forever. Now you have them here. So if you want this, instead of saying income, you want it to say revenue. Boom. Okay. Now it says revenue. Simple. And then on the layout, we have, what we talked about before, the bandit rows, whether or not you want to wrap the text or you want to see particular columns and you want to see grid lines. So, so what you've seen is 2 layers of new things coming in with reports, and you might see them in groups. You might see the first group of things that I showed you. You might see them only in advance, and then you're going to see this new UI change. Next thing I want to talk about is the new management reports UI. This is really cool. Now, I say it's really cool because it's very visually appealing, but I've actually never used it. I never actually run a report for a client using this. So we're actually going to explore this together. All what works and what doesn't work about it. So when you go into management reports, and again, I think only the new plus accounts and the new advanced accounts actually show you the new management reports interface. They start with the context of draft and published, and they don't start with templates. So that's kind of bummer. So the old style of the legacy management report starts with templates, which makes it easy for the user to kind of know what they're doing. So you're going to have to start with from scratch. So I'm going to click on create report. And then, oh wait, I stand corrected. Here are the templates. So let's do a monthly financial summary. Okay. And then the templates are here. So this created my first set of templates. So the first thing you see in the top is the name of the template and the month that you're looking at. Then you get to see an outline here. We have the cover page. We have a table of contents. We have executive summary. This little, the gems thing, it means that this is going to be done through AI. So finally, they brought AI into management reports, which is great. And it pre-writes executive summary for you. That's amazing. That's what we want AI to do. Love that. We got the KPI scorecard. So it's like sort of high level areas. We have profitability charts. There we go. We got cash flow charts, liquidity charts. Awesome. Financial statements. So these are my regular reports. And I can add more stuff. Add a section here. And I can add any text I want. Now, that's the outline. Under content, that's where you can actually nitpick and edit specific things. And then we have design, where we can, decide whether or not we're going to add the branding or a different type of branding and what the cover page looks like. Background color. Different styles here. So there's all sorts of different styles for this new management report. Now, this one for me is only showing up in some of my files, and it's only showing up in, it looks like Plus and Advanced. I don't see this in any Essentials or Simple Start. Making the assumption that at some point it'll work for all. I don't know. It'll work for all of them, because management reports, like, it would be silly to have two different types of management reports, right? It shouldn't matter what version of QuickBooks you have to have access to management reports. Maybe this executive summary that's taking forever to load, maybe that's only available in Advance. Maybe I understand why it would, but for the time being, it looks like this is only in some of the Plus and Advanced accounts. So let's go into, I'm going to go into Add Section, and I'm going to go into Content, and we're going to create custom content inside of a particular section. So for example, I can click on Add, and I add the content. So I added a balance sheet summary on this one. And let's say I want to add a profit and loss by month, add that in there. So you just add the things that you want. So they're kind of calling this content, including custom reports and including KPI and charts. So let's say I want a total expenses KPI. Boom, it adds that in there. Total gross margin, cost of goods sold. So there's a lot of options here to just add and throw into your management report. Now you can also change the size of them. Well, in this case, change the size of them like this. So similar to like the old dashboard screen, but now in reports format. It's still a little quirky here. Yeah, change the size as well. So kind of sticky, kind of not. So you build your own custom reports. Again, this is like a lot of stuff to cover, so I haven't, really built one where I go, oh man, this thing is blowing my mind. But from the surface, it kind of is blowing my mind. It looks pretty awesome. So this is like their first version of this. It's great. You can either save it as a draft, which means you're not ready to send the reports to your clients. You're just kind of still in editing mode. So when you go back into management reports, there's your draft, and you can either preview it, export it, print it, whatever. Okay, we can go back to edit. Okay, and you can edit any of these things. You can also sort of temporarily hide them. So that any of these things that you don't want to see, you can temporarily hide them. So you have them there, but maybe you want to just temporarily hide them. Then once you're ready, you can click on Publish, and it creates it as a sort of final report. It's no longer under drafts. And then from here, you can preview it, print it, create a PDF, all that stuff. The direction in which QuickBooks is going with these management reports, it's awesome. The level of customization that I see, I'm really, really super impressed by it. Now, there's still a lot of waiting and thinking. I don't know if it has to do with AI trying to process stuff. Really don't know why is it sort of like so quirky on actually outputting and creating the report. And obviously got an error at some point. I think it was just trying to do that the AI part. So I'll try one more time, give it the benefit of the doubt, see what worked. But I have a feeling that the AI portion is kind of like crapping out in the process. See if I can just get rid of that AI portion. So once you publish it, you can't edit it. You have to go back and edit the draft again. So I'll get rid of this executive summary one and see if by getting rid of the executive summary, it actually does it. I just have a feeling that the AI is the one that's acting up. That's the one that didn't truly load it when I was running it. Let's see. Come on, QuickBooks, don't embarrass yourself. I'm gonna see what else. Okay, got a couple more things to cover. Okay, so I'll just ask you to imagine yourself in a world where when you click print, something actually prints. Okay, so let's just give QuickBooks the benefit of the doubt that this thing hasn't been completed. It's been added to my file, but it hasn't been completed. So usually when you do have some new things that are broken, you should have the choice to go back to the legacy version or the classic version. But what can I do? So only so much I can do when things just don't work the way they're supposed to. Next cool little thing, I'll be really quick by it, is there's now a setting where you can change the inventory valuation setting. So if you track inventory, and I wonder where this is, it's going to be under expenses maybe, or under sales. Where's my inventory? Well, this one might not be able to change it. I'll just go back to the slides here. When you turn on your inventory for the first time, you can choose whether you use FIFO or moving average. So I think it's just great that you now have options. You can do moving average and FIFO. Now, desktop uses weighted average, which is interesting. There's no weighted average, but it's very similar to moving average. So that's a new option. Now in QuickBooks Online Advanced, we covered this, the ask question about reports. We've covered that already. That's pretty neat. So I'm going to talk about the new custom KPIs and the custom dashboards, which is actually going to be a very similar interface to the management reports that you saw. So here on the KPIs, you have these sort of high-level measuring mechanisms, and they look very similar to the books to the client insight, right? These are like sort of the high-level areas that you can track. If you click on the customization, you can pick whether or not you're doing accrual or cash, or whether or not you're using payroll expenses or timesheets to look at payroll expenses. There's also filters here and different columns that you can organize. There's different categories of KPI, so to speak. So you can pick which categories you want to see. So really, really high level overview of your numbers. Again, this is inside a QuickBooks Online client, not necessarily logged in as an accountant, inside of a QuickBooks Online client. So an end user, a business owner, would be running these type of reports, the KPI reports. Okay, so you get to see high level numbers for the most part, which is great. And the dashboards are going to be similar to what we saw with the management reports, where you get to pick and choose what metrics you want to bring out to the front and create graphics for. So you click on edit, and under edit, you get to choose, right, what you want to have in here. Again, very similar interface. It looks like they're using the same type of interface everywhere. Here's this text. You can insert a title, and we can call it here expense analysis or something. So expense analysis, whatever it is. Spelling things correctly would be helpful. So you can add your own titles here, or you can click on data and add your own data points. So there's all sorts of data points you can add. So let's say AR paid, bring that data point. I can edit that and choose, go even deeper, right? You know, the specific fields that I want to have. Now, super awesome. Like super, super awesome. Just this level of specificity you can have with these reports. See that? So these are like really, really highly customizable APIs. Again, this is all brand new, and I haven't sort of yet explored enough to tell you, oh yeah, I have a client, I showed them, I did this. But this is something I'm very, very excited about. There's color schemes as well. You can have a particular set of color schemes in your reports. You can have them show the numbers as well. So, man, they're going really, really deeply detailed with this. Now, this is only available in advance. I only suspect this to be available in advance. I don't see an easy mechanism to print or create a PDF from these. I would think that that's what management reports is for. So if you're looking for something that you can print or give to your client or whatever, I would look at the management reports version of this. But so far, I am beyond impressed how powerful this is, like how cool this is. There is a little export button here. I wonder how useful this is. Okay, it says generating PDF, please wait. Again, I'm suspecting that because it's getting sort of locked up trying to do this summary, that's why it's not able to export. That's why I guess I'm not seeing a print button or an export button, because it's just not functioning the way it's supposed to. But I'm sure that at some point when you get access to it, crossing my fingers, that it will work or work as a sign. Cool. All right. Last thing I'll mention is Intuit Enterprise Suite. They've now added a new consolidated view. So I'm going to sign out of this. I'm going to sign into my Intuit Enterprise Suite account and show you. It's really interesting. So if you're kind of lost on what Intuit Enterprise Suite is, it is 3 or 4 times more expensive than QuickBooks Online Advanced. It is meant for larger companies. It's mostly useful for companies that consolidate. There's a new consolidated view that allows you to log into a consolidated sort of QuickBooks Online account that contains multiple Intuit Enterprise Suite accounts. And essentially, this is meant just for you to look at your consolidated reports. So if I go into reports and I go into standard reports, it gives me only my consolidated reports for multiple companies. So consolidated P&L, I pull up my P&L across all my companies inside of my Intuit Enterprise Suite ecosystem. Yeah, I display them by entity, of course. Okay, so it makes sense to have a consolidated report. And what's really blown my mind, when I say blow my mind, I meant blown my mind, is in a consolidated report, being able to drill down and seeing detailed transactions that have been consolidated. And these are all by company. So I'm half mind blown. I'm going to be totally mind blown when they get to the point where I can click on the transaction and actually be able to see the transaction without having to log out of consolidated view and go into any of them. I'm not sure they're able to be able to do that. But having consolidated summary, and on top of that, being able to pull a consolidated view of multiple transactions where you see transactions across multiple company types. That's company entities. So I'll show you really quick. Let me remove this, and let's do maybe by month or something like that. And let's say I go into this dollar amount and I drill down into the consolidated view into a detailed report that should show me right here. So you have transactions across multiple entities, multiple QuickBooks files, so to speak. They're Intuit Enterprise Suite files, which is the same thing as a QuickBooks file. So you have transactions across the board in a single report. Any point in time that you have a client that has multi-entity that wants to consolidate, this stuff is like beyond useful, absolutely useful. So there's a document you can click on right there in the slides, which is the latest document they have released for all the stuff that they made official in terms of Intuit Enterprise Suite new features. I'm going to dedicate a whole video soon just into Enterprise Suite fall features. But there's other stuff like enhanced intercompany expense allocation and dynamic intercompany allocation, which again, within the context of consolidated reports, is extremely useful. So with 8 minutes to spare, okay, I did say it was going to take 2 hours, but it took less than 2 hours. I will leave it open for questions. I'm looking at the questions in the chat. I don't see a question that's answerable. So here's a question. So in Enterprise Suite, if a small business owner has 8 subsidiaries, are they charged for each entity, or the cost is a deal for all of them because you're putting them together? So you get charged one amount, but it is calculated per entity, and there's no deal, so to speak. You're going to pay a lot more for Intuit Enterprise Suite that you would pay with QuickBooks Online, even advanced for that matter. So Mary, if you have a client that wants to have some consolidated reports, prepare to pay a lot more, not less. It's not a deal, so to speak. But they'll be able to, pull a consolidated report across the board. Lisa asked, does anybody know what permissions you need to give your team so they can see books close? I see nothing in firm books. I don't know, Lisa, and I'm assuming that because books close gives you the anomaly detection, which gives you the ability to edit any transaction type. In some cases, delete them or void them, that sort of thing. Then I'm assuming that they have to have full access. Like I'm thinking that books close would be someone that's admin level access. But I don't know. I'm assuming that at some point they'll create a particular permission structure for that. Jennifer asks, back to RightTool with the re-reconcile, does it create a second report in QBO, or does it undo and re-rec? So it doesn't undo, it re-recs. So it'll be a second report. So it's exactly the way QBO will work with a second report. There's no undoing. That button, all it does is saves you a click. It doesn't create new functionality. Jennifer, thanks for asking. Will this event be recorded? Yes. After this is recorded, it takes about an hour or two for it to post for it to be ready to be downloaded. Then I have to post into YouTube. So at some point tonight, I'll put it into YouTube. Let's see, any other questions? If not, I'll close it out. So I'm here for you. If you have any questions on anything that we covered, I'll cover it. If not, we'll wrap it up. Okay. It looks like there's no more questions. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon. Hopefully your mind is not fried with so many layers of new things. But between you and me, it took me like 6 to 7 hours yesterday to prepare for this. And I went through and looked, I clicked on every single screen I looked at every single screen of QuickBooks. I played with every button. And I'm like, is this new? Is this new? Is this new? Have I covered this? Is this new? Is this new? So I dug really, really deep. And now I take a 3-month break. So I'll see you next quarter on the February edition of the quarterly QuickBooks Online updates. Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful day.